Right. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of America
and to
and the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
for all.
Okay. Assuming we have one seat open, I think everybody else is here. I think we need to seat someone for the open position, because I assume that's still open right now until reappointment is done, correct?
I mean, the Board of Selectmen approved the replacements. Audrey, did you go in and get sworn in for the new role?
Yes.
Right, well, oh, okay, that was the replacement for, right, the other was the replacement for Audrey, so.
And Mark Lundgren is the replacement for Audrey.
Yeah, but we jumped the gun on Mark. We need, Audrey, if you haven't submitted a resignation for your alternate position. Scott needs.
I did do it.
You did the, okay, but it was after the meeting, so technically Mark wasn't appointed. It'll be for the next meeting.
Okay.
Right. Okay. All right, so I think everybody, the members are here.
Yeah, it looks like we have everyone.
Okay, all right, good. All right, so the next receiving, so that's the approval of the minutes.
I reviewed the minutes, they look good, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 19th meeting.
I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion?
Can you guys please say your name when you make a motion?
This is Dave, I made the motion.
I
Thank you,
seconded
and-
Wayne.
Wayne,
Wayne
thank
seconded.
you. Thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, yeah.
Public communications, I think the only public communication that we have is the tax collector's report. I don't think that got out. I just got an updated one because of some timing, so we'll talk about that under finance director's report, which is, I guess, the next item. So I think everyone did get the finance reports. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. I mean, I looked and scanned through it. I mean, the general property taxes is a little better than that number now. So being under collected by the 7.6 million, I don't think everything was in when this report was run. Not everything was posted. Looking at ECS, we did get another quarter, so now we have 50% of that money has been received, and the last $1 million shows up hopefully by the end of April has been the normal schedule. Other than that, I didn't see anything expected in revenues. I don't know if anyone has any specific questions or comments on that, but I didn't see anything that is not really unanticipated at this point. So we are a little bit behind interest and lien fees, but that's just to be expected. We'll get a lot more from February forward as payments are made, so that number will get closer to what the budgeted number is. And prior year taxes were almost at the 200, so and again we have a little ways to go. So looking at where we are for tax collections, and didn't get this done until just recently. So Joanne, I don't know if I could show this screen so I can show this chart because I didn't get it quite finished. in time. So I got some updated from the information from the tax collector today. Pushed them to. All right. So is that showing? So can everyone see that schedule? Or is it on the wrong?
No, I think you have to share your screen.
All right.
I can see it. It's showing on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I did. Okay, so through January, and I think there was some timing of some posting of stuff that came through the lockbox. So if you see the January is that we're at 88.7 as compared to the 91.2. And then through February 15th, a lot more information was posted. I'm not sure the timing is compared to last year. The biggest change was the personal property tax from Connecticut Yankees. So that puts us up to about 97%. And if we look at last year at the end of February, we're at 98.2. So January was the month that we had the most concern about as far as timing, as far as what was going to happen with collections, and it looks like we're going to be pretty close. So there's nothing significant. Again, the numbers are trending in a good place. So it'll just the ones that aren't paid. I think there's about 800,000 on the current list that's not paid, and most of that is real estate, and some of that's personal property. So we'll see where we'll end up, but there's no real significant shortage as far as compared to what we budgeted and what our expectations were, and so hopefully everything just continues down that path, and we should be right on. Pretty close to budget for the property taxes at least this year. So that's the good news. Okay, so I put that back to Luann, if I can figure out how to do that. Stop. Okay. Expenditure wise, again, I didn't have anything significant that I noticed. I don't know if anyone has any specific questions. I mean, some of the lines that were overspent were the same lines that were overspent last month. So I didn't see anything else that was significant. I think, last month we talked about brush disposal, maintenance of site is up a little bit, so I don't assume the brush disposal is related to some storm and maintenance of site. And I'm not sure if we had a chance to see what that was, but it's not much different than it was last month at about the 4,300 in the waste management budget. And other than that, I didn't notice anything of significance. Again, this is still only 7 months. And probably whatever's going on with our snow budget really is not going to show up till February, since that's basically when the storm started. So I don't know if anyone has any other questions or comments on either the revenues or the expenditure budget.
This is Dave. I looked through it. I didn't see anything. Nothing jumped out as being really out of line.
Okay.
All right, Joe, I've got a couple of answers to questions from last month.
Okay.
On the site maintenance for the transfer station, there were 2 large unexpected expenditures. We had to replace a motor on one of the compactors, and the roll-on, roll-off truck needed some maintenance. So that's why that's over. Question was also asked last month about what are we getting for COVID reimbursements and where do they go? Obviously they're recorded as revenue. It shows up in the miscellaneous state federal revenue line. And for COVID reimbursements to date, we've gotten $80,138, which I'm comfortable covers the extra costs we've had so far.
Okay, that's good. And do we, and those costs are spread out through our various accounts? It's not in any one particular place?
Right, it's because we had, town clerk had expenses, the fire department had expenses, election expenses were a big one. They're all
Right, okay.
coded so we can pull up what they were into a single spot, but they're recorded to the lines where they should appropriately have been.
Okay, so I guess at some point maybe we can get a list of that. If we have to cover some of those overages, we can use that revenue to do that. So, all right.
Okay.
All right, so I can ask Linda if she can at some point pull that together. We don't need it to the end of the year, but just for that purpose. Okay.
I'll also add just for, Tim, you mentioned last meeting that you appreciate that you put a percentage expenditure on the expenditure report. If you notice what Joanne sent out late this afternoon, because Linda just let me know she could do it, we can do that on the basic report itself, so you should have gotten that.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so anyone else have any questions or comments on the financials? Okay. All right. I guess, Bob, do you have anything else to share besides the big item?
Those were the main things. I'd just like to throw out some good news as a result of our last posting for the finance director's position. We've gotten a few promising candidates. May have light at the end of this tunnel finally. Joe and I are going to sit down and do a preliminary review of budgets and take a serious look at who we should bring in. But at first cut, it looks like we've got enough candidates to do a decent round of interviews to start the selection process.
Great news.
Yes. Linda Panett is thrilled.
All right.
Other than that, I've got nothing from a selectman's budget report.
Okay. For last year or for this year, as far as an introduction, do you have? I know
Okay,
everybody. This
for this year's budget, all right, it's the next
Just-
thing, okay. You should have gotten, it's nothing like a well-rehearsed meeting, and this is nothing like that. You should have gotten a file folder or access to a file folder from Joanne. It includes all the budget documents. Just for background, unless there's significant pushback, the Board of Selectmen worked primarily from the summary document, which is 01-BUD, I believe is how it's titled. That lists all the department and agency requests on one spreadsheet. That doesn't have their backup documentation when that was provided. So you also in that file folder have their actual department and agency submissions and additional backup documentations like copies of tax returns for the outside groups we provide funding to. And we will keep the 01 budget document up to date with changes made by this meeting, and there are still some to be approved by the Board of Selectmen. But unless you seriously need it done, we're not going to be updating the submission requests, the broken down by department, because those were the requests. However, we, as the Board of Selectmen, modified and was on the budget summary, and that's where I think it's most appropriate for your Board of Finance recommendations to go. The other thing we've gone through, and I'm digging through my paperwork to get it, there are still, I think, about 4 budget lines that have not been approved by the Board of Selectmen yet. But everything else has. The ones that have not been approved, insurance and benefits, the numbers you see there are, with the exception of a couple, just some scientific wild ass guesses on my part, based on some very preliminary input. And this has been fairly typical. We don't get final insurance numbers until the Board of Finance is well into the process. And usually the last one is one of the big ones, which is healthcare. So that's not been approved yet. The contingency hasn't, and I think, unless Joanne, you can correct me, I think we just overlooked that one. The split on that money may change. I don't think the bottom line will. The police budget, line 205, waiting for information from state police. I've got some information. If nothing else, I can put an estimate in that line. The other costs in there are pretty well set, but the basic state police cost, which is $300,000 more or less, is still unknown. Dispatch services are unapproved because we haven't gotten anything yet from Valley Shore. I have bugged them a couple of times. And I think those are it according to my records. Everything else was approved by the Board of Selectmen and is sent on for your action.
All right. Yeah, the other two budgets are debt service, and I'll get you that information,
Right.
and capital.
Yeah, capital requests to the departments will be going out this week. So we'll be rolling that as you're looking at the operating budget.
All right, any highlights or significant changes?
We built, this again is a negotiation year for the union, just like last year was, but last year we just did a one-year kicker because nobody knew what to expect from COVID. I think based on the tax and other revenues we're seeing, we're lucky we haven't been that impacted by the pandemic. So this will be a full 3-year contract for both of our unions. I know they're going to push for wage increases. I tried to keep them frozen for the kicker, and neither union would even, their main unions wouldn't even entertain that. So we built some expectations for a 2% increase into the salary figures you see in the budget requests. Again, I think that's a reasonable expectation. It may be more, it may be less. We'll see what happens. But we built it in there this year so you can see where the money's going, as opposed to the large salary contingent, which had been the practice in the past. Other than that, a lot of the department budgets were flat. Same thing with a lot of the outside agencies. Significant difference from that. The ambulance request went up significantly. And we had a long discussion and got lots of explanation as to why. So we approved their request, and I'm sure you'll be wanting to talk to them and hear the whole financial picture they can present. Other than that, I don't think there are any major increases on anything beyond like insurance, what we have no control over, basically.
Hey, Bob, it's Kate. Do you think it's worth mentioning right now, too, about what's going on with the White House building that houses Park and Rec and Youth and Family, and that situation with the Board of Ed?
Yeah, it won't hurt. Nothing on that has been built into the budget yet, but we got an email last week before, just before we convened on our budget process, that the white building that houses HK Rec and Youth and Family Services is in some significant need of work. I mean, capital items, roof, heating systems, or plumbing. The district may elect not to go forward with that. I think their long-range plan is to not have that building there. But of course, that would put those two agencies out on the street looking for a place to rest. We don't have any that I can think of readily available long-term spaces that the town owns. I mean, moving into HES is an option, but that's not a long-term solution. But we also don't know for sure that the district is going to force the issue and say, no, the only option is you've got to move out. And if they do have to move out, there may be space for them in some of the other District 17 buildings. So it's just a very preliminary. It may come out with some cost expenses we have to worry about. it may not. If that develops further during this budget process, we'll revisit and take a look at it. Thank you for bringing that up, Kate.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, I just get really worried because I don't know if everyone knows, but neither Park and Rec nor Youth and Family pay any rent to be in those buildings. So if they
Right. That's good. Okay, I think it's breaking up.
Kate, I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Okay. Well, just taking a look at the budget. So I think we talked about earlier, the ADM issues are ADM. We have a decrease in our favor this year. That may result in, budget being the same, about $300,000 less to town. The service is going to go down about a little under 30 grand, and then grand list growth was minimal, but that's about $55,000. So at least there's some positives there. If we're looking at, assuming, and again, there's some big changes, terms of benefits and not knowing, but the budget is up currently at $174,000 from last year, where we're starting, what we're looking at right now. And then we do have those bigger budgets to look at. So just big picture, we're positive with the budget increases a little bit. So, but we don't know what insurance is and what we're going to do for capital, that type of thing. At least it's a much better picture going into this than last year when we knew our education budget was going up and we didn't have that. We had a little bit more grand list growth last year, so and that helped out. This year, it's minimal at about 55,000. Just a little background as everybody jumps in and starts looking at the budgets, and then before we get going on that, that's just a preliminary of where we're starting with this. All right. So that's
This is Dave. I did see the governor released his preliminary budget for this year, for 22 and 23, and it does call for ECS to stay flat, no increases but no decreases. And as a matter of fact, it looks like the whole thing is going to stay pretty much flat. The pilot, and the town aid road, and LoSiP, he's projecting everything to stay flat. So that budget is obviously not approved, but at least preliminarily, there's no cuts.
right. Literally, it's 100% exactly as last year from the starting point. So there's no impact on that item either.
Yeah, this is Bob. The downside I thought in his presentation was not for this coming year, but those funds, pretty much everything we get from the state remains flat for a full 3 years he discussed, and I don't expect our expenses will, and again, the legislature does not necessarily just adopt the governor's budget. They haven't for years.
Yeah, it's interesting thing that, because I do so many different towns, and there's Farmington, and they had a bunch of state legislatures come to the Board of Finance or their town council meeting. So that's something we might think about to get some answers directly of what's going on. But they said the state's in extremely good financial condition. So that was their comment. So I'm not sure why the state's freezing everything other than being cautious. But they said the state has one of the highest surpluses. I don't know where they get the information, but they made a comment that the state's in really good shape. So it's interesting that and it could be because of all the COVID money that's coming through and haven't given all of that out yet. But anyway, so, maybe towards the end of the budget process, maybe that's something worth doing, is to invite our state legislators to come talk to us, and we'll even have better information at that point of what's going on.
Good idea. I think something from Christine Palm saying that we will be getting COVID relief money from the state.
Yeah, we did get some, and there's another round of it, because what everybody applied for was a lot less than the feds gave the states. So then they started a round two as far as distribution of that money. So I'm not sure what the planning on that is, but I think that was more of a formula calculation than it was an expense calculation. The first round, you had to support everything requested, and then they had a lot of money left over. There's also additional monies, and so I don't know how it impacts the budget, but this year and next year that the Board of Ed is getting, the region will be getting a couple different grants that are in the hundreds of thousands. So obviously they have expenses that are going at that also. So I don't know if that has any impact, but there's money, both a separate education pool and a separate local government pool.
Because I saw numbers like $1 million or $1.3 million or something like that.
Yeah,
This is Bob. Tim, I think you're talking about Christine Palm's email.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it now. I knew I got it, but I hadn't looked at it yet. I got an earlier one from one of the congressional offices that listed a couple of different sources of funds for our town and other towns through the COVID rescue package. And the numbers for us were a little over $3 million. And there was a third pot of money that they weren't sure how that was being divvied up. That amount of money floors me, even the $1.5 million that Christine talked about. But again, this is just what's in the plan now, and who knows what's actually going to make it through Congress. But it looks like it may be a significant package.
May we all keep our fingers crossed.
Definitely.
okay. Anything else on the budget? Everybody now has it, and we'll have some time to look at it. So related to that, I think because we just received the budget, I think our schedule had us meeting on Saturday, which we'll be inviting some people in. I'm not sure we're ready to do that this week. I think everyone will have, makes sense. Everyone has some time to at least look at it, and then we can talk about it and decide who we want to invite. It sounds like we would want to talk to ambulance at some point to understand that part, but I think we should, if we need another Saturday, we can fit that in, but I think we can postpone it for now, because I'm not sure it'll be as productive since we're meeting now. We're not really discussing the budget in detail, and I'll give everyone time to at least look at that, and so we can make those decisions. So I think unless anyone has any concerns about cancel, I think we would cancel this Saturday's meeting until we're in a better position to, because at this point we couldn't even invite it. It would be tough to invite somebody in and schedule them on Saturday. So in order to get adequate notice, I think we can sometime next week or the week after decide. And we do have the March 20th if need be, and then we can see we either do the rest on another Saturday or do it at one of our meetings, depending on what departments we think we want to invite in to discuss in more detail. So then related to the February 22nd meeting, and everyone is here. Essentially, my client base, I have constant requests to attend meetings, and I have a client that's asking me to attend a meeting on February 22nd. So I don't know if everyone's here. If February, if we could reschedule that meeting to the 23rd, if that would work. So I'll have to make an arrangement, but which would just be a week from tonight.
Yeah, that works for me, Joe. This is Dave.
Works for me, Tim.
Yeah, this is Mark. That's fine.
Okay. All right. If Audrey, work for you? Wayne? Okay. All right. So Joanne can get something out on that. You know, we'll have the cancellation that it was just a workshop, not a meeting, and we can move out to the 23rd. I appreciate that. Any other new business? No? All right. Any public comment? Okay. Not hearing none. All right, everybody has a little bit of extra time to jump into that budget and start reviewing and be ready to go next week to start going through it.
So just to be clear, we're going to cancel Saturday, but we will meet on a Tuesday of next week, right?
Correct. Right. That'll give everyone, time to kind of look at all that material.
Right.
At least looking at it. We'll normally start at the top if that makes it easier for the review. Okay.
If there's nothing else, this is Dave. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Second.
second it.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. Well,
Seconded.
huh?
Who seconded?
I did, Wayne.
Thank you. All good. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, stay safe.
Yep.
Bye.
You.
Good night.
Good night.
Hey, everybody.
Good night.